Welcome, everybody, to Everyday Ethics. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, joined once again by the lovely, wonderful Persephone. We are here to talk about ethics as it applies to your everyday life. Persephone is still wound up, so she has some things she wants to talk about. Please feel free to donate by means of super chats and super stickers. And with that, I will turn it over to Persephone.
Can I just mention something that kind of I want to say it irritated me. It didn't really. I found it more funny than anything. Um, but it was kind of like it was kind of annoying. I once again made the stupid mistake of reading TikTok comments, which like
Are you
don't
going to tell
don't
me about Teddy Bear?
yes. Oh, if they're wearing cat ear headphones, like just discount their opinion. I'm like,
Did you see my
okay,
comment to him?
yes.
I told him, wait till you find out about this guy who calls himself Teddy Bear.
But that's just such a dumb thing to say. Oh well, if they have any whimsy, then then they're not worth listening to.
So, Brett McCall used to have a universal principle of human behavior. It's people are stupid. And
Fact.
you just can't escape it. It's just where it is. So what's going on? Well, look at hi Katrin, hi Danny. You say hi to Subby too because he's there.
Under a fake name.
Yes, those are his two schools, but it sounds like it's giving advice to a guy named Buckley.
Stop it.
I'm
Stop
just saying,
it.
am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Nail her, Buckley.
Why is Danny mad at you?
Because I kept telling him, yup, he's upset. I was busy. I'm doing stuff. He's texting me, and I said, yup. I mean, I was in New York gallivanting around.
People are born tabula rasa, but they don't have to choose to remain that way. Yes.
That's a very accurate statement, Mr. Lewis.
So I am fairly new, right, to ethics and to all of this stuff, right? So when I see something that I I clock as wrong, I don't just accept, okay, this is wrong,
Yep.
because I also don't understand. Sometimes I will clock something as being wrong, and I don't really understand why I'm clocking it that way, and I don't know if I'm correct.
Yep.
So you know that I've been extremely frustrated with the general tone of the discourse that's been happening at the
Okay.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been very frustrated about this, and I have spent the past couple of days trying to figure out what exactly about the way that people are talking is so frustrating to me. Um because I can't just say, well, they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go and figure out what it is exactly about the way that they're talking is wrong. And here's what I've figured out. You tell me if I'm wrong. So the one thing is category collapse, right?
Okay.
So people are saying the war is moral because Iran is evil and it has to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the ignoring the process of getting congressional approval, that's fine. Those
Mm-hmm.
two things, they're sort of like putting them together. They go, because it's moral, ignoring the process is fine. My parents can cross my boundaries and disrespect me, but it's okay because they love me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking two things and you're sort of collapsing them into one, right? And you're making a judgment on both things instead of looking at them separately.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Okay, so I want to get a little deeper than that because you're talking about arguing about whether the war is moral or not. And I think what
Mm,
you're really upset about, and tell me if I'm wrong, is the way
mm.
people are reacting to arguments about the war.
I mean, yes, kind
Okay,
of.
so I'm going to tell you what I think. and what I think is based on a massive amount of introspection and an awful lot of debates and discussions with people. When people have something in their head that seems so certain to them, but they have not thought it out, but it just seems so obvious, and they're challenged on it, they cannot immediately come up with an argument, and they get angry and they lash out. I've done it myself. I've seen other people doing it. I have seen, like I said yesterday, a lot of these arguments are just bad. They're bad arguments. So, earlier today I debated a guy. He came on the show, and I'm just going to, for instance, he accused me of being a rationalist. He said that constitutional originalist objections to war in Iran are rationalist. That's what he said. In his mind, I'm very confident he was certain of that. The problem was when I or others were asking him online, he would lash out. It's just obvious, which is never a good look for a complex argument, to just say it's obvious. So when he got on the show to debate, he never defined rationalism. He never defined originalism. It turned out he wasn't certain on what originalism was. He didn't connect the two. I'm not trying to beat up on the guy. My point is that something that to him was completely obvious collapsed upon even the slightest bit of examination. On some level, people know that. So when you have, it's like if you ever talk to a religious person, for instance, who just knows that, God is real, Jesus is coming back, they're going to heaven, the whole nine. And as you start to push them often, they will get very testy, very upset. So I think that's a part of it. I think that on some level, people understand that their views are not well thought out. So we can put that in one place here. So Akira Felix says they're disregarding objectivist epistemology. I think there's something more than that as well. Within the objectivist philosophy, there's a focus on certainty and the right to be certain about things. Epistemological clarity, certainty, that if you meet certain standards, you are completely justified in being certain. That's absolutely true. It's also within the objectivism teaching about one, context. You have to understand the given person's context, and you also, people are fallible. There's far less consideration that people are fallible and that context matters. So if I am dead certain about something, and this is the only position any honest person could possibly hold, then by definition, when you differ with me, you're being dishonest. I'm not considering that one, I'm fallible and could be wrong. Two, you're fallible and might just be mistaken. You don't necessarily have to be dishonest. And context matters. I cannot, if I'm going to talk ethics with you, Persephone, who's been at this for 2 years, there's no way that I can expect you to have gone through the processes that I've gone through in crunching these things and extrapolating, comparing. It just wouldn't be fair of me.
No.
To do it. So if you made an error, probably one that I've made myself, I'll give you an example. When I first studied objectivism, I assumed that the statement that life is the standard of value was because life made value possible. Life made other values possible. So because I could go chase other values, without life I couldn't do that. But I was wrong. But it's an understandable error. So if you made that error, imagine me just saying, oh, look how dishonest she is. Right? And I think that's a problem. So those are my thoughts, on this subject. And I also think it is war. Iran is an evil country, so emotions are high. You think that justifies some of the behavior I'm seeing? And I'm kind of ashamed of myself for allowing this to get to me. But, when you're constantly bombarded with insults And the insults are based on just complete, I don't want to say complete, let me not exaggerate, are based on irrational conclusions. Like, if my conclusions about this are wrong, they're wrong. They're still rational. I still arrived at them through a rational method. I may have made a mistake somewhere along the line, but it's through and through rational. When you accused me, not you, but when I was accused of being a rationalist, none of that was done. It was, this seems like rationalism to me. You're a rationalist, and that's it. So
Mm.
that's what I think. And Greg Lewis says certainty has to be earned. Absolutely. And then there's that somebody may think they've earned certainty and be wrong about it.
Akira also said, "Is there gonna?" Someone said, "Is there a show tomorrow?" No.
No, no, there's not. I'm going to New York with this guy I grew up with. We're taking off. And I've got to drive all the way to his house for some reason rather than him picking me up. So it's going to be that's going to be a trip, and we got to leave immediately if we're going to make it on time.
Do you think that because objectivism makes, how do I say this, such high demands of a person and a person's intellectual honesty, and like ties your morality to your intellectual honesty, do you think that when someone challenges your reasoning, it challenges the way that you've arrived at at a conclusion, that it feels less like an intellectual debate and more like an attack on your moral character?
Do I feel that way?
Do you think that that could be a reason that some of the people who are reacting like such jackasses are doing so because it
I
feels less?
think I think that they're judging the moral character of the people with whom they disagree. I think that they're making a grave error in assuming there can't be honest disagreement. They're in their minds, Iran is evil. It's right to take them out. If you disagree with that, then you are, something's wrong morally with you. So when you take like in objectivism, judge the command, not the commandment, but the idea that you should judge other people. But that always has to be contextual, and it has to mean that you are precise and you are of upstanding moral character. There's a lot more to it. And I think, Ayn Rand was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant as a human being. And she was very straightforward in what she thought and, in what she argued. I am not Ayn Rand. I am not as smart as Ayn Rand. I haven't, figured as much out as Ayn Rand has done. And I don't have her personality, but I do think that there's some people who try to model that. And I'm just trying to be me. Now, of course, all of this is a lot of speculation, right?
Mm.
But it's speculation based on a lot of thinking about the subject, a lot of experience with my own mind and with other people.
I personally feel like, what does Persephone think about the Iran war?
Can I give some context first
Yeah,
before you give your answer? I
sure.
just want to say that Persephone has probably read more about this subject in the last 2 days than most people have read about it in the last 5 years. And I'm not exaggerating. To say that I go overboard when I'm preparing for a show would be like the understatement of the century. I insist myself that I study this thing from a lot of different angles whenever I'm going to come on and talk about something that's going to be discussed in depth, which is what we've changed the Capitalist Corner to. And if Persephone's going to come on with me, then she's going to do the same. And she has. And it's been a
Even
lot.
even if I'm only coming on for the last sort of like 15 to 20 minutes,
Yes.
I get 25 articles to read through. I I think that Iran is evil, and I'm sure I agree that, it being toppled is a good thing. I don't think that the United that just going in and being like, well, we're doing a war now. I don't think that that is a good move. I think that if the people who are saying that this is a lifeboat situation and it's an emergency and that's why it's okay that Donald Trump just completely said, like, fuck the process. If it's an emergency, then tell me why it's an emergency. Prove why this is an emergency situation. And I don't think that that's been done. So I think that perhaps it is moral that Iran gets destroyed, but I'm not going to collapse the categories and say because it is moral that this regime get toppled, that it's okay that we just ignore the process that
Uh,
needs to be in place.
I think I can put that in clearer terms, but tell me if I'm wrong, Persephone.
Sure.
I think the idea that you're gaining across, it's not just moral, it's that it would be justice to see the Iran regime fall. That doesn't
Yes.
mean it's moral for us to do it without a
Yes.
declaration of war, without a discussion, etc.,
Yes.
etc.
Yes. That
Hello,
is exact.
Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. That is how I feel. Like I believe that both of those things can be true, but I'm not going to collapse them into one and say because I think it is justice, it's okay to just ignore the process because I think that personally, I think that the negative consequences of ignoring the process are obvious and the positives of the war are not necessarily as obvious or sure. But that's not what the show is about. The show is not about
No,
politics.
but
It's
he
about
did ask, so it was, it's not. But I will say this moral reasoning is important.
mm,
So, for instance, if you're deciding whether something's in my interests. So, let's take something as simple as exercise, for instance. Exercise is not intrinsically good. Exercise is good if it's good for you. So, what if there's a situation where you haven't exercised in a while? These are real things that people could face, right? You haven't exercised in a while, but you've got a bum leg. Something's wrong. Something's wrong
mm.
for you, with your leg, but you've been sitting around. So what do you do? How do you weigh whether or not it's in your interest to run? Because sitting is not good for you, but wrecking your leg is not good either. So how do you decide that? Well, maybe you could do something else for exercise that doesn't require running around. I mean, it's going to sound silly, but Danny, there's not compelling arguments for both sides on this. Um, is it? I don't want to get into that right now. Please don't get into that. I don't want to. I just don't. Um, but maybe you can shadow box. You know what I mean? Maybe you can lift weights. You could come up with some different thing that you can do. Right? That is the sort of the one of the possible solutions. But there's cases in which my point is it's not so easy because in the normal course of events you would say, oh, this would be good, but context changes that around.
So, can I tell you why I think that there are parts of this Iran discussion that apply to everyday ethics? This specific show.
Of course there are. There's things that apply to it because of I'll give you myself. I know not to be concerned with what other people say about me, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that when people resort to insults, they have nothing else. And normally, it's fine. The last few days has been different for me for multiple reasons. So I have to bring it all together, figure it out, so the next time this happens, I don't get upset about it. I don't take it personally, or I don't lend any credence to it at all. You understand? But so every this is the thing is everything is related because every action you take redounds on your own self-interest because it affects your life.
Here's another one. So something that I'm noticing is that oh my god. Okay, so something that I'm noticing is that people can hold principles, but when they see this when for them the stakes are extremely high, there's almost this like the stakes are too high for the principle to
Greg,
to apply to apply.
Go ahead. So Greg asked a question that I think is good. And he says, are not everyday ethics the rules, laws one has to discover for themselves or seek out those who are investigating their foundations and legitimacy? Yes. And it's all connected. And I think that Danny and Subby are together. I'm just going to put that out there.
Like romantically?
Well,
Okay, well, respond to the thing that I just said.
okay, repeat it because I was reading Greg's comment. I'm sorry, but Greg is very insightful. I wanted to see what he had to say.
And Persephone is chopped liver. She wears cat ear headphones, so don't listen to anything she has to say.
Oh, come on. Don't be silly.
I was making a joke. Okay, so in something that I'm noticing is that people, when the stakes are extremely high, like with this Iran thing, it's almost like they say, yes, this principle is important, but the stakes right now are too high to apply that principle.
Okay, there is legitimacy to that though, under certain circumstances. And so let me
Wait,
just. Oh, I
I,
thought you
I,
were done. I'm sorry.
oh, I want to clarify. So this is an extreme situation, right? This Iran thing, but there's other places that people will do a similar thing, right? So someone who says that honesty is a value for them, but when they are applying for like a make or break uh, career move, what is it called? Promotion
Yeah.
or a job, then they will pad their resume or they
Yeah.
will lie on their resume. Someone who says that they don't tolerate disrespect and they won't allow someone to treat them badly will stay in a relationship because of other reasons, or someone who, values integrity. If there's like a very large financial gain on the table, will bend the rules. And it when the stakes get very high, personally or globally, there's this like, okay, well, the principle is important, but I can't apply it now because the stakes are too high.
Okay. Brent McCall, my good friend, had a. This conversation is taking a turn for the worse in the chat. Can we switch this up a little bit here? So anyway, Brent McCall had a saying that people sometimes, a lot of people, they live their life on clauses, right? Yeah, I want to be a good person, but here or but there. This is a problem that arises because there are situations, context, where the normal ethical principles don't apply. That can happen, but they're so rare, right? That we don't base our ethical beliefs on them. We don't base our ethical reasoning on them, and people will use that to justify in their individual lives bad behavior. Well, I could tell this one lie and it'll really, really pay off. The problem is once you've done that, you've discarded the principle and now you no longer have it as guidance. So now you've told this lie. How many other lies might have to, follow to buttress this one lie? What if somebody finds out that you've lied? I mean, there's, a whole lot of ancillary consequences that could come about or, because of this lie. So you don't want to do that. If I'm in a situation where it's unclear to me whether it's principled or it's an actual situation where maybe the principle doesn't apply and I'm not sure, I'm going to side on the side of principle. I'm going to go with the principle because it's more important to me than the exigencies of the moment. You could, of course, and the guy today wanted to find an extreme example where I would say, okay, you can do it. And that's fine, but why not identify the situation that you're actually talking about and see if that type of reasoning applies? Is it a bona fide emergency?
Yes, that's what I said. If it's an emergency, prove it.
Okay, what else you got?
So
Okay, Robert says if your virtues and principles aren't in your self-interest, you need to re-examine your virtues and principles. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the key is, you start with life as the standard and everything flows from that. So in my life is my ultimate value. So if you put me in a situation where I'm going to lie or give up my life takes precedence. The principle of honesty is there to serve my life, not my life to serve the principle of honesty, right? Now, what if it was a situation, I mean, that where I had to live interminably in that way? So that life as a human, life as a rational, moral human was simply impossible. That I had to keep lying and keep engaging in irrational, immoral activity the rest of my life. Well, that's different, and I wouldn't do it because the emergency stuff is temporary. That's the key. It has to be temporary, and it has to be followed by a return to where you were, to what you were doing. You understand? To a return to your normal circumstances.
Yeah. Mr. Deagle says, what do you think about the claim that there are no solutions but only trade-offs?
I think that I need to know more about the context that you're talking about. If you're talking about in terms of economics, which is where this is usually applied, I think that that's meant to illustrate the fact that any policy can have both, good and bad effects. That nothing's perfect. Um, I think that if what you're saying is that there's no policy is going to produce utopia, then yeah, it's true that you have to understand that nothing is going to result in instant prosperity for everybody. If it's meant to say that there's no right or wrong, well then no, I disagree with that 100%.
Um, I have one more thing that I want to say, but we have a question on the website.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to read it. I
If
haven't
if it's a wacky question, okay, go ahead. If it's
I
a
I haven't pre-read this, so we're going to experience this together. My colleague is not able or not willing to address my point in a conversation because they talk about other aspects of the supposed subject. I don't want to get into those, which meant basically engaging in a different topic. I simply want to have my point understood and be the focus of the conversation. I would therefore always try to take a step back and define the subject, maybe also the level at which I want to talk about it, making that clear to both of us before continuing the conversation, adding or defining context, setting the framework, something like this. Could you give further suggestions on how to avoid ending up repeating their points without intersecting, but reaching common ground and eventually results?
if I understand correctly, this person is feeling unheard. They don't feel like they get to tell somebody their ideas. So there's nothing you can do to make somebody listen to you. You can be assertive, you can express your concerns and express your desires, and if the person's rational, they'll listen. That's the best you can hope for. And that's what I would do. If it's a situation where this person won't do that and just wants to keep talking and talking and it's not relevant to your job, I would simply stop listening.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would say I have to go. I mean, if it's work relevant, then I have to listen. If it's work relevant and this person's giving all their feedback and won't hear mine, and there's a superior, I'm going to the superior and saying, "Listen, my ideas are not being heard. I'm not on board with this."
yeah, you've said it's a colleague, not a friend. So if it's work stuff, then I guess it's a problem. If you're trying to have personal discussions or philosophical discussions with someone who's unwilling to listen to you, maybe just stop.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
There is a, there is something that I wanted to say, and the thought keeps going in and out of my head. Oh,
In and
right.
out. Okay, go ahead.
You're very fun to be around.
I was gonna sing the TKA song, "In and Out of Love." No, it's not TKA. It's somebody else. Doesn't matter. Go ahead. It's a club song, but go ahead.
Okay. So something that I said to you the other day was that sometimes sticking to your principles leads to an outcome that is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you this is a very broad question.
All right.
How do you tell the difference when you reach an outcome that feels uncomfortable? How do you tell the difference between like this feels wrong but the principle is correct, or this feels wrong because I've misapplied the principle, or this feels wrong because the principle is wrong? Is
There's
there
only
is
one way, and it's the use of reason applied to the facts. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get it right, but you maximize your chance. You have to be committed to reason, committed to honesty, examine all the relevant facts that you can, and come to a conclusion. That's it. There's no other. There's no magic bullet there. My dogs think there is.
Yeah, I think maybe your dogs are right. Um, because that's something that's worth discussing, right? It's worth discussing that Michael occasionally has to tell his dogs that they're not invited to the show. It's
You know
something
what
that's
they
worth.
do that's funny is when I tell them to like if they're all barking and I tell them to shut up, they'll stop and then one will go Roo! Like just to
Yeah,
make sure he gets the last word in, that she gets the last word in.
yeah, mine do that. Uh, that's something worth discussing, don't you think? That
Oh,
sometimes following your principles leads to outcomes that are
sure, they
uncomfortable.
can in the short term. It's like if you want to exercise and you go work out and you're doing bench presses, then the next day your chest is killing you.
I like that though. I enjoy that feeling.
Okay, but you're a little strange, and we all know that. I mean, you do have the cat ear headphones, but I'm teasing you. But no, seriously, there's a lot of things that you can do that would have short term pain that are long term good. Like maybe you have to. I mean, I'm reminded when Brent McCall and I wrote our book, Down the Rabbit Hole How the Culture of Corrections Encourages Crime. We had a publisher, and the publisher said, they were concerned that we committed libel. So we had to hurry up and make an argument to these people for why it wasn't. We spent all night reading case law. Brent wrote, I fell asleep at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. I was done. Brent kept going because his work ethic. Brent reminds me, if anybody's ever read Atlas Shrugged, of Hank Reardon, with when Hank Reardon just keeps going and working and working. And it was painful, it was uncomfortable, but we had to get it done, so we did. When you work like that, the long term benefit is you end up succeeding. Normally, not always. But I mean, again, the only way you can do it is to assess the facts that you know and do so in a rational way. But if you
Yeah,
want, I mean, we can do it. We can do it. If you want to do it, we can do it.
we can do what?
Have that discussion. What are we
Oh,
talking about? What do you mean? We can have this discussion
okay.
on the topic
We
you just brought up.
Yeah, I think that's a good topic to discuss tomorrow.
I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, right, the day after tomorrow.
I'm going to be in a
What's
car annoying Danny.
Well, have fun, Danny. But yeah,
I shall live to annoy another day.
we can discuss that on Thursday. I think it's a worthwhile topic because I think that the fact that some outcomes make people uncomfortable makes them think that the decisions that they're reaching are not ethical or not moral.
Greg Lewis wants me to do a road show. Unfortunately, I'll be driving, so the road show would be difficult.
Roe may be home, longer show today. Huh?
What?
That's what the
He's
comment
telling me
says.
that I think he's telling me that Roe is home, uh, so don't do a longer show today. I don't know. I don't know I don't know. That's what I think. Maybe that's why the dogs are barking is because Roe is home. But either
Ah,
way, we are out of time. We're not out of time, but I do have things to do, so we're gonna cut it here. Is that okay?
yes. And then on Thursday we're gonna discuss that other thing that I said.
Thursday we will do the topic of the show is going to be the other thing Persephone said.
Good.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the feedback, the discussions, everything. Sub wants me to do a longer show because Ro may be home. Sub, I'm sorry, I don't understand what the hell you're talking about.
We could do a longer show if anybody in the audience
Has a
had
question?
has
Yeah, Subby.
ethical questions.
Yeah, Subby, ask a question.
Yes. Yes, Danny, ask a question. Both of
Yeah.
you.
Yes, Donnie. Donnie.
Do
Donnie,
you know
ask a question.
there's someone that I know tangentially whose name is Donnie.
Really?
So it's like Danny, but it's like the South African, the Afrikaans version, Donnie.
Donnie.
And
Donnie.
he's an
Okay, he
asshole.
says, when the dogs are barking, I thought I hit send and I said, Roe may be home. And then I said, do a longer show. And when I hit send, I didn't realize they were both together.
Subby, that's not a question. What? Have an ethical question. Come on, make one up on the spot. That's what I have to do all the time.
You
Do
do.
you?
You have to make one up on the spot. Do I need to come up with one? Is that what we'll do? Maybe I can. I'll tell you. Nah, that's no good. Mm, it's just not good. It's not good.
What's not good?
The
Invite us
situation I
along.
was thinking of. No, it's just. I mean, it's not an ethical scenario. I mean, Subby always is happy about this. He always talks about it and what a good thing I did. But I was a 20-year-old maniac. But I mean, I'll share it just so nobody's in suspense. When I was 20 years old, I was going to have some sort of a ruckus with some other guys, and Subby didn't want to go because, well, he was an adult and knew that this is ridiculous for 20-year-olds to be engaging in this activity. And one of the guys was mad at him because he didn't want to go fight. And I said, no, leave him alone. He doesn't want to go. He doesn't have to go. That's because I liked Subby. If that were somebody else, I might have had a different attitude because it was completely arbitrary.
Yeah, it's interesting. People can make like ethical decisions and be good people, and actually, when you look at them, they're not good people at
No,
all. They
I was
just make
terrible.
they make some good decisions based on completely arbitrary criteria, and you can't actually judge a person based on one or two things that they do.
All right. And that brings it home. You cannot judge a person based on one or two things they have done. Persephone, thank you so much. Thank you to the audience. We're out for now. We'll be back Thursday. Until then, be ethical. Thank you. Be ethical.